Hi, I'm Kirsten. I'm the executive director of WIF, and I'm so excited to be here today with the Impact team. We have executive producer and director Vanessa Roth, as well as executive producer Tara Long, and our composer Amanda Jones. Welcome. I was so impressed with this series. I watched it with my 11-year-old and just I've seen a lot of documentaries in my life and a lot of short films. And there's a way that you've captured these women's lives that felt, not only incredibly compelling, but just really authentic. And I wanted to start by asking how you came upon these stories, how you decided on these six, right? Six women. So maybe Vanessa, do you want to start with that?
So, one of our main sort of deliberate goals we had was the name of the series, Impact. It was very deliberate, where we wanted to find women who were being impacted by things around them, and then whether it's internal, whether it was discrimination, whether it was socioeconomic, whether it was violence, whether it was something that they were healing from. We wanted to make sure that was key, and that what they did is sort of turn this prism of being impacted by things they couldn't control to then impact that they had control over, and that they were acting on that impact to have a positive impact. So that's sort of what our goal together as a team was, to find those kinds of stories. And then the way we found them was really from all kinds of places. Instagram photographs of people doing incredible things that we would kind of dig deeper into, local news articles, organizations that we knew about, or different colleagues or different people our team has sort of worked with that would know someone else who knew someone, in a particular field or location. And then we just, again, dove in to find people that would be willing to really also just trust us and give us access to this incredible work they were doing, especially at this time of COVID, which added a whole element to it as well.
And how did the three of you come together? And I'll have Tara answer that.
Yeah. Gosh, Vanessa, this has been a labor of love for such a while for us. This project came to me over at E1 year and a half, maybe almost 2 years ago. And it all started with Gal. The project came into E1, and then we attached Gal to the project. And then Gal and everyone at Pilot Wave and I were like, okay, now we need the perfect director before we take this to market. And, Vanessa was the first person we reached out to, and just loved the past work that she's done. And her sensitive, emotional ability, kind of like you said at the beginning, to tell these stories that are so organic and feel so real. And we were so lucky that she loved the project. I remember we did a Zoom, Vanessa, you were on set doing interviews for a project you were just finishing up, and found the time to talk with us. And we knew it was the perfect fit. And then from there, I think Vanessa, you sent me an article, and that on with Amanda and Miss Jones and stuff, that was like all this great things you were doing with composing and putting things together. And Vanessa's like, this is who I want. She has to do our series. I don't know if she'll do it. And it all worked out perfect, how Vanessa attached Amanda, and the package kind of came together. I think I can say, on a lot of shows we make, you want to say, especially when you're done, wow, it was hard, but we had a great team and we loved our team. I think on this one, Vanessa, you put a really good team together, from story producers to music to everyone who worked on this project. I think would walk away saying this was a really great experience and a great team, especially in a tough time with COVID.
Yeah, no, and we also, thank you, Tara, because I also, from your leadership, Tara, too, that I feel and with Gal involved, I feel we also, we did also make really just choices in our crew to make sure, too, we had a very high percentage of women. We had all kinds of diversity, from whether it's race, ethnicity, gender, everything sort of across the board, location-wise, local crews. It was really important to us that the Impact series was not only about really powerful, wonderful women, but that it was made by powerful women as well.
And how did you go about doing that? Sometimes it is easier said than done. And we are hearing, particularly recently, from crews that they're having a hard time finding women and non-binary people to work on their sets?
Yeah. Well, so Shannon Green, who is a coordinating producer for us, and Dev Palladino, who is our story producer, were really wonderful at being able to reach into all kinds of places to find crew, like you said, that's not just like the very first people that you know because maybe you worked with somebody before. But I was gonna actually, if I can, throw to Amanda. I know that because you're part of like really interesting groups of composers that actually makes an effort to make sure people are being heard.
Yeah, there's like a variety of like, advocacy groups. We have like the Composers Diversity Collective, there's the Alliance of Women Composers, and their mission is to really kind of help, bridge the gap and kind of break down the pipeline problem that exists when studios are kind of looking for diverse talent, like female talent, specific to composers. And so, the groups are incredible in the sense that they're not gatekeepers in any way. We just all leverage our own contacts with different studios to facilitate like mixers and just like face-to-face meetings, or pre-COVID, but sort of any kind of like forum that allows like that the group to be able to just communicate directly with the studios, and it just makes it very, very easy to kind of just tap into new talent that's incredibly talented. So I think it's important that studios definitely reach out to those different groups, whether it's for cinematographers or directors or like the women in film, to staff their projects. I think those groups are really essential and really important.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. A lot of it is just about tapping into the networks and the connections, and not accepting that that there isn't a woman or a person of color for the job, and just to keep going until you find all those people. How many of the crew members were the same across all of the productions, or were you crewing up in each different city?
But we had a core team that's myself, Ryan Pilota, who's also another EP with us and a co-director as well. And he's actually the person that brought Tara the first part of the Brazil episode that he shot in 2016. So he's part of all of it. We had our sound woman was part of a couple episodes across the board that she could get to. Our story producer, Dev, was on all of them. So we had the sort of the core production team, our editing team. We had two editors that worked on a couple episodes, but we had one lead editor who edited really the whole series with me. And then local crews would be sort of additional sound people, additional camera people. We always had like a unit production person that was local, and PAs that were local always, to make sure, again, that to me, local people are the experts, obviously, in their community, and they're the people that are going to make sure that the access we have is because they trust us and that we have those relationships.
Yeah, that really comes through actually in the content. I want to switch back to the kind of content for a minute. Vanessa, what was the brief that you got when you started this project?
I think Tara and Gal, I think it was Tara, Gal, and Yaron were really the ones, like Tara was saying, on this first conversation we had. And I think the brief was really actually, this is a great project because it stayed exactly what the brief was, which is we want to make a series about women, impacting their community for the better, and the ripple effect and the connectedness of powerful women. And that's what we made.
The elevator pitch on that one is we wanted to find amazing women that are not sometimes in amazing places and amazing scenarios and situations that kind of still do amazing things. And like in darkness, you can get a little bit of light to inspire people. And the small things you can do can make such a big impact. And you don't realize you're making an impact. You're doing it out of passion and love in your heart. And then, blindly that is making a big change on a lot of people's lives, and then spreading that and inspiring others. The smallest thing in the toughest place can make such a difference. And that's kind of what we wanted to capture. And Nat Geo was amazing partners on it. Well, I think Vanessa, like when we got going on Impact, they saw our vision and really let you and the team as filmmakers execute something that really stayed true to the original kind of concept.
Yeah. I think that one difference, which I appreciate now, is that, you know, we had gone in originally thinking like more, I guess, typical sort of series where you'd have a half hour in a location, another half hour somewhere else maybe, and it was with Nat Geo, and we sort of collaborated with them, that it turned into these shorter episodes. You know, they're each around 12 minutes long, and then from those episodes we made a feature as well, so they're kind of multi-purposed. But what I loved about it is that we get to tell these stories in this, like, we get to capture them in this moment, in this evolution of their impact. Like, impact takes years and years, but instead of waiting to share that, you know, until films can take years and years to make, and then you watch it when the impact already happened, or, you know, the story already happened. To me, the sort of brilliance of this was that we were able to shoot in a short amount of time and capture the feeling of what they did. And now that it's out and they're short enough, and they have like this I don't know, it's just that it feels alive, like they're still working exactly in what they're doing. And so an audience can understand that and then maybe get involved. And that really was because of Nat Geo's passion for it too, to bring it in that way.
I think you also made an artistic choice to not have any voiceover, right? It's only their own voices. And sometimes their own voice works as voiceover, but there's no, like, you know, omnipresent voiceover. And I think that also worked to really personalize it and make it their own story. I wanted to ask Amanda, I loved the music. It's so poignant, and it just, you know, it's subtle when it needs to be subtle, and it amps up when it needs to amp up, but it never feels melodramatic. And I also thought the compositions were like uniquely geared to that culture and that subject. And if you could talk a little bit about how you did that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, initial conversations with Vanessa to try to really establish that tone and kind of hit the mark for each episode and have them all feel distinctive to the space and the feeling, but at the same time connected to the entire series as a whole. And so, yeah, there's like a through line with like certain instrumentation, but there were certain accents. For example, with Louisiana, I was using like mandolin, which is, you know, an instrumentation that would be used with more like Southern instruments. But for locations like Brazil or Detroit, you know, we really wanted to like tap into like the majesty and just like the art form of, you know, figure skating and ballet. And so that was kind of more like string based and piano based. And then with California, with Half Moon Bay, you know, since it takes place near the water, we kind of tapped into the idea of the water and just like surfing and how kind of waves come into the ocean, out of the ocean. So we have very like long sustained like piano notes and like strings to kind of just mimic like the ocean in a sense. So it was, and what was really important was that the music wasn't overwhelming. Like the subjects and their stories are very, very important. And we want to just really support that, but also give the music like a sense of place. So it was just a very delicate balance of just those two things. But you know, the subjects, you know, their stories and their impact is like number one. And so, and the music was just there to support and just kind of give it just that tone, a little bit of flavor, just to support their story. Really.
And another way I thought you all balanced well was telling a compelling story and also galvanizing an audience to care and to want to get involved. And I'm curious to know what your kind of conversations were like about how to do that well.
I mean, I think that the main thing, like you started the whole conversation with, about the main point was the authenticity and the just really listening. I feel like as a documentary filmmaker, my job is not to go in and say, this is the story I want to tell, but it's really to listen and to hear and to see that person and what their life is and what they're doing, and to get back to collaborating and understanding what do they want to say and how can we say it best. I feel like I'm sort of losing track of your question.
I think the authenticity is what really kind of rings through. You can like feel that in all the different stories, and I think that's what really like draws everyone in and wants to get involved.
Yeah, it started like with casting. It was so hard because we had so many amazing stories. And I remember, you know, we were on a call and, you know, it's like, they're like your children, you love them all. How do you pick just 6, right? And so I think going into these stories, just shadowing and covering, like there's certain lines that just like stick out to me, like the one, from in the Brazil episode when they're like breaking the cycle, they want to do something where the girls have another opportunity instead of getting pregnant, or the guys going into the street, into the gang culture. And this program, like she didn't realize what she was doing, but was making this change. And then in Detroit, when they're talking about having an impact and doing something to make the next generation see what they're doing in a positive way, and hopefully that they can take over in her shoes. Like, you can't write these lines. That's all their real life. And I think they all have this inspiring, aspirational character in them. And, at any time in the world, and I think especially this year in 2020 with COVID and everything happened, watching something that kind of brings out that bright, right side of human nature. I just felt like, I'm not really a crier, but watching all these episodes in Rough Cuts, it was hard not to get emotional. And that was just because I think it's who these people were through and through. And there's no way that wouldn't come across, and that all started with casting the right stories.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And it totally worked because Kayla mentions her GoFundMe account, and I was on that GoFundMe last night. So I don't know if anybody else, if any of the other subjects are still fundraising, but if they are, I encourage all the audience members to check out their fundraisers, and we'll put the links up so that people can find them.
Such a little can go a long way, just something small can just start something. Like when we watched Brazil the first time, before it turned into the episode it is today, the first thing I did before I said, I want to try to option this and develop this new TV series, I was like, how can I send these girls some money to get all the girls shoes and outfits for their ballet? Like, how blessed and lucky are we that we take such things for granted, that when it kind of puts everything into perspective. And I think Nat Geo's done a good job with that page to drive awareness with all the different organizations, which was really important. And Vanessa, you did a great job of making sure, that was so important in the show too.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like that's the most, as Tara knows, like that's the most important to me. And I feel like too, like just our approach is that is to work together to connect each other. What I think is special about the way the series is coming out as well is because is a way that you can access the women and what they're doing and help in some way. I have had some people ask like how they could go down to Memphis and actually help build the houses, or how Ariana, if somebody doesn't have money to donate, they still want to, add resources in some way and connect. And so I just was speaking with Chief Sherelle, Ariana, and Kayla, and they all said from the series being first coming out on social media, they've gotten all kinds of, incredible responses to both fundraising, but also people just being just inspired by them. And now there's this like real-time conversation going on between them and their audience, which I just think is just, I don't know, it's really like a gift.
And it sounds like they maybe have met each other now, at least over Zoom.
Yes, and it's like that's like the super bittersweet thing for me, and I'm sure Tara, you feel the same way, Amanda too. Like all of this has been amazing that we've been able to gather on Zoom and talk, but I'm so hungering to be in person with everyone because we have these incredible relationships with all these women and each other, and the crew's been amazing, and we've just like been on screens, and I just fantasize about being together to be able to hug each other.
Well, there'll be time for that. You'll have to make it happen in the future, right? Or do part 2?
Yes. That is, the series, the intention behind the series was always to create a movement, and it's been amazing to see how many millions of people have watched the shorts so far. And that just thinking that the impact that we're having on those people, and the vision will be to keep going. We started off actually doing international cities, and then COVID hit. So we had to pivot our strategy. But, there are endless stories out there to tell, and amazing people and women doing amazing things in really tough places. And hopefully we'll have the opportunity to keep that going and keep the same team of amazing people that we had on this production. And we know that, Gal is eager and excited to, lend her voice and her influence to continue the series as well, which is exciting for us.
It would be great to get to revisit like in a year or 2 and see where they are and what's happening, even if it's not in a whole series, but just to like, I now am totally interested and invested in these women. I want to know what happens.
Yeah. And then even like Livy, the 9-year-old, in the skating episode in Detroit with her poetry, I keep thinking like, yeah, wouldn't that be great to see her as she develops as a writer, and just that people coming up behind the women that we also followed, like who they impacted and then how they, again, that ripple effect of impact. There's so much more to tell.
Right. There's a long tail here. I mean, I was even thinking like, gosh, some of these would be great in narrative form, right? Like, I want to see the feature length story.
Yep.
So,
And I think that's what's so great about the shorts. It is so unique to hear that. And we make a lot of documentaries. And I watch a lot of documentaries when everyone's like, I want more, I want to hear more. And I think that's what's so smart about these shorts is it's left everybody kind of wanting more and to research and figure it out. And, hopefully we can continue this path down endless stories to have those stories always inspire and kind of be like, leave everyone wanting more. Because a lot of times, that you don't hear that, which is really nice as a producer to hear.
Yes, I agree. I think we only have a couple of minutes left here. You all obviously have been working on this quite recently. I wonder if you have had time to work on anything else, if you have anything exciting coming up that you want to tell us about. Amanda, let's start with you.
I'm working on a lot of different things at the moment. Let's see. Good Trouble season 3 on Freeform, like Hulu, and 20 season 2 is coming. We're currently shooting. A Black Lady Sketch Show season 2 just finished airing, and there's a lot of just different things going on that are really exciting.
I'm so happy to hear that. And how about you, Tara?
It's something I'm actually doing with Vanessa again. And Vanessa, I'm sure you were going to say the same project, so I don't want to take it away. But the trailer just dropped yesterday around another strong, amazing woman that we just were so lucky to tell this story together again with Mary J. Blige. It just dropped on Amazon the trailer yesterday, and comes out at the end of the month. And she's just, again, Vanessa, you did such a great job telling, like, it's the one of, I'm so excited for the world to see all the work that went into Mary's story.
Vanessa, what's the title?
Yeah, it's called Mary J. Blige's My Life. It's about her My Life album that she made in 1994, but it's about that album, but it's really about her own internal, really emotional self and psychological sort of self and evolution from that time to now. And we integrate animation, which was so much fun to be able to do, and has sort of that spirit that you mentioned about the series too, of she's the voice of the film. She speaks for herself, and is really our guide through it. And she's just such an incredible person. So yeah, I'm just, this last year and a half has been just Tara and I really just getting these incredible stories out in the world. And I don't know, like you said, I don't know if I've had time to actually kind of like internalize what we just did. And when I do, I'll just sort of sob out of exhaustion and also, but I'm really proud of both of these projects, and just so happy that Tara really brought me into both of them. So they're great. And I have a few things sort of percolating, but we're also, as we talked about before, we're hoping that we can keep making more impact, more of the series, and maybe travel a little bit more, and just make it into the movement we want, because I think that there's that hunger. I think people want to connect and want to do good, and so that's great. And yeah, I hope to be able to keep working with Amanda and making great work.
Yeah.
I can't emphasize enough how special it was to be able to watch it with my 11-year-old too, right? Like, in part because they are shorter. Like we were trying to get her to watch the Billie Eilish documentary, and she wouldn't watch it. And she loves Billie Eilish, but it's like, too long.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, my 9-year-old. My 9-year-old's seen all of them. I have a 19-year-old and 22-year-old. They obviously were very influential too, and like just making sure I'm staying on point and on it. They're on it. But yeah, my 9-year-old, like you said, it's not always that you can do a doc series that families and kids, teenagers, that you can talk about it, you can watch it, you can be impacted by it, affected by it. And I love that this is something like that. Like you said, the length is great.
Yes, good job all around. Looking forward to more.
Thank you. Us too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, we'll talk to you again soon after you make
Okay.
more. Bye.
Take care.